Picture this. After years of working, saving, and waiting for the day you can finally stop, retirement arrives. No alarm clock, no office stress, no more counting down to weekends. You feel proud, relieved, maybe even a little stunned that you actually made it. And then the market crashes. Not long after retiring, your portfolio starts dropping fast. The money you spent decades building is suddenly shrinking, but your bills are not shrinking with it. The mortgage still shows up, groceries still need to be bought, life keeps charging full price. Now the pressure changes completely, because this is not just a bad market anymore. You are retired, which means you may have to pull money out while your investments are down just to keep your life running. And that is where the real damage happens. Selling assets after they have already fallen can lock in losses and put your retirement under stress much faster than most people expect. That is the real source of retirement panic. It's not just watching the market fall, it's needing income from a portfolio at the exact worst time. The name for that problem is sequence of returns risk, and even though it sounds technical, the idea is simple. The danger is not just getting bad market returns. The real danger is getting bad returns right at the beginning of retirement, when you're already taking money out. That combination can drain a portfolio much faster than most people realize. But the good news is, this risk is not something you just have to accept. With the right setup, you can reduce it in a big way. That's where the three-bucket strategy comes in. It's simple, practical, and built for real retirement life, not just textbook theory. The goal is to give you steady income, more confidence, and fewer panic-driven decisions when the market gets ugly. Instead of treating all your money the same, this strategy gives each dollar a specific role. And that matters because most retirees were taught how to build wealth, not how to turn it into income. They spend decades focused on saving and investing, then retirement starts and the withdrawal plan is basically, I'll take money out when I need it. That is not a strategy. That is crossed fingers. Traditional advice like a stock-bond mix and a fixed withdrawal rate can help, but it does not fully solve the problem of retiring at the wrong time. The real idea behind this strategy is very straightforward. Not all of your retirement money needs to do the same job at the same time. Think of it like a system of connected containers. Some money is for now, some is for the next few years, some is for much later. Once you separate your money based on when you'll actually need it, the whole retirement picture becomes a lot more stable, and that's where the three buckets begin. Bucket 1 is your spending money for right now. This is the money that covers your day-to-day life, your bills, groceries, insurance, and everything else that keeps life moving. Because of that, it belongs in safe and liquid places like a savings account, money market fund, or other short-term cash options. This bucket is not here to grow aggressively. It's here to protect you from having to sell investments when the market is down. A good rule is to keep about 1 to 2 years of essential expenses here. That way, even if markets get ugly, you stay calm, your bills get paid, and panic never gets a seat at the table. Bucket 2 is your next layer of protection. This money is for the years just ahead, not today, but not far off either. It's designed to be more productive than cash while still staying relatively stable. This is where things like bonds, CDs, dividend-paying investments, tips, and other fixed income tools usually fit. Think of this bucket as the bridge between safety and growth. In many cases, it covers about 3 to 7 years of expenses. And when Bucket 1 starts running low, Bucket 2 steps in and refills it. That keeps your short-term needs covered without disturbing your long-term investments. Bucket 3 is your long-term growth bucket. This is money you do not plan to touch for many years, which means it has time to recover from market drops and keep compounding. That's why this bucket is usually invested in things like stock index funds, diversified equity funds, REITs, and other growth-focused investments. This is the part of your portfolio built to outpace inflation and support a long retirement. But for it to do that job, you have to leave it alone when markets get volatile. That's the key.
Bucket 3 works because time works. The longer this money stays invested, the more powerful it becomes. Now here's where the strategy really starts to make sense. The buckets are not just sitting there separately, they work together like a flow system. Money moves from bucket 3 to bucket 2, and from bucket 2 to bucket 1. Think of it like a waterfall. Your long-term growth money sits at the top, your income and stability money stays in the middle, and your spending cash is at the bottom. When markets are doing well, you take some growth from bucket 3 and move it down to refill bucket 2. Then bucket 2 continues feeding bucket 1, so your monthly spending stays covered. It's a simple relay. Each bucket supports the next one. And this is exactly why the strategy works so well in retirement. When markets are strong, the system refills smoothly. When markets are weak, you don't touch bucket 3. You spend from the money that was already set aside for safety and short-term needs. That removes the pressure to sell stocks when prices are down, which is where so much retirement damage usually begins.
Now let's talk about the part people fear most: a bad market right after retirement. This system is built for that moment. It is not pretending market drops will never happen. It assumes they will. That is why Bucket 1 and Bucket 2 exist in the first place. They buy you time. They give your growth investments room to recover without forcing you to cash out at the worst time. That is the real goal here. Not to avoid volatility completely, but to make sure volatility does not hit your retirement at the exact moment it can do the most damage. Let's make this real with a simple example. Say someone retires at 65 with a portfolio of $900,000. Their monthly spending need is $5,000 or $60,000 a year. Using the bucket approach, they might place about $90,000 into Bucket 1, which covers roughly a year and a half of essential expenses in safe, liquid accounts like a high-yield savings account or money market fund. Then they could put around $300,000 into Bucket 2, invested in things like bonds, CDs, dividend-focused holdings, and other steady income tools meant for the next several years. The remaining $510,000 goes into Bucket 3, invested for long-term growth through diversified stock funds, equity index funds, and possibly REITs. Now imagine the market drops hard in the very first year of retirement. Bucket 3 takes the hit, and that $510,000 might fall sharply on paper. That sounds scary, and emotionally it is. But in practical terms, this retiree is still in a stable position. Why? Because their current spending is already covered by Bucket 1, and Bucket 2 is sitting there ready to support the next phase. They do not need to rush in and sell growth investments at depressed prices just to pay everyday bills. That is the difference a structure creates. Someone without a plan sees the market drop and starts selling from the wrong place at the wrong time. Someone using the bucket strategy already has protected money set aside, so they can give the growth portion of the portfolio time to recover. And in retirement, that gap between reacting emotionally and following a system can make a huge difference. Now let's talk about where people get this wrong, because the strategy works best when each bucket stays in its lane. Mistake number 1 is keeping too much cash in Bucket 1. Yes, cash feels safe, but too much cash creates a different problem. Inflation slowly chips away at it. Safety matters, but if too much of your portfolio just sits there for years, your purchasing power starts shrinking in the background. Bucket 1 is there for protection, not for permanent parking. Mistake number 2 is making Bucket 3 too conservative. This bucket exists for long-term growth. It needs enough upside to help support a retirement that might last 25 or 30 years. If you make it too defensive because market swings make you uncomfortable, you lower the very growth that helps your money last. And that problem usually doesn't show up right away. It sneaks up later. Mistake number 3 is never rebalancing. The buckets are not something you set up once and ignore forever. They need regular check-ins.
At least once a year, it makes sense to review how much is in each bucket and adjust based on your spending, your age, your goals, and what the market has done. Retirement is not static, so the strategy cannot be either. Mistake number 4 is forgetting about other income sources. Social Security, pensions, annuities, rental income, even part-time work, all of that changes the equation. If part of your monthly need is already covered, your buckets only need to fill the remaining gap. That's why the strategy has to be built around the income you still need, not just your total expenses on paper. And mistake number 5 is panicking anyway. Let's be honest, even with a good plan, watching markets fall does not feel fun. Emotions are still part of the picture. But that's exactly why this strategy exists. It's designed to stop fear from making decisions for you. So when the market gets dramatic, take a breath, step back, and remember, the buckets are doing their job, even if the headlines are trying very hard to ruin your day. This strategy tends to work best for people who are close to retirement, already thinking seriously about how their savings will turn into income. It also makes a lot of sense for people who are already retired but still pulling money out without a clear system. And if you're the kind of person who feels your stress level rise every time the market drops, this approach can be especially valuable because it brings structure, clarity, and a lot more peace of mind to the process. It's also a strong fit for anyone who wants retirement income to feel more organized. Instead of guessing where money will come from each month, you build a framework that gives every part of your portfolio a purpose. That alone can make retirement feel far more manageable. Now, if you're younger and still in full wealth-building mode, you probably don't need to use this strategy yet. The same goes for people who are many years away from retirement and mainly focused on long-term growth. At that stage, the priority is usually building the portfolio, not turning it into income. But even then, understanding this strategy early still helps, because the sooner you understand how retirement income works, the easier it becomes to prepare for it well before panic ever has a chance to show up. So, let's bring it all together. Bucket 1 is your safe money for right now. Bucket 2 is your stable money for the next several years. Bucket 3 is your growth money for later. And when those 3 work together, they create something most retirees want more than anything else: protection, flexibility, and confidence. You're not guessing, you're not reacting, you're working from a system.
And that is really the big takeaway here. Retirement success is not just about how much money you have. It is about how well that money is organized to support the way you actually live. A strong portfolio matters, but a smart structure is what helps that portfolio survive real-world spending, real-world volatility, and real-world emotions. That is what keeps small mistakes from turning into expensive ones. Because in retirement, peace of mind is not a luxury, it is part of the plan. And the more control you have over how your money flows, the less control the market has over your life. If you found this helpful, hit the like button so more people can find this video. Subscribe for more content on retirement, investing, and building a plan that actually works in real life. And drop a comment below. Are you already using a bucket strategy? Is this your first time hearing about it? And what part of retirement planning concerns you the most? Picture this. After years of working, saving, and waiting for the day you can finally stop, retirement arrives. No alarm clock, no office stress, no more counting down to weekends. You feel proud, relieved, maybe even a little stunned that you actually made it. And then the market crashes. Not long after retiring, your portfolio starts dropping fast. The money you spent decades building is suddenly shrinking, but your bills are not shrinking with it. The mortgage still shows up. Groceries still need to be bought. Life keeps charging full price. Now, the pressure changes completely, because this is not just a bad market anymore. You are retired, which means you may have to pull money out while your investments are down just to keep your life running. And that is where the real damage happens. Selling assets after they've already fallen can lock in losses and put your retirement under stress much faster than most people expect.
That is the real source of retirement panic. It's not just watching the market fall, it's needing income from a portfolio at the exact worst time.